In this lesson, I'm going to show you how you can form your ideas, thoughts, and opinions in a meaningful way and connect them together effectively by understanding three different types of sentences and the vocabulary that will help to form them. And by doing this, I'm sure it will help you to improve your score on writing task 2. So let's get started by first of all talking about exactly what is expected when it comes to writing your paragraphs and writing task 2 on the IELTS exam. For writing task 2, you're evaluated on 4 specific things. First of all, task achievement. And this is simply, do you answer the question that you're given? Do you stick to the topic that you're asked to write about? Do you address the issues, whether you agree or disagree, whether you solve problems and come up with solutions, or whether you share how you share your opinion? The second thing that you're being measured on is your lexical resource, and this is simply your vocabulary, and then your accuracy, which is how you form your sentences and use your grammar to communicate your ideas and thoughts effectively. And then maybe the most important thing when it comes to writing the perfect paragraph, coherence and cohesion. And this is really how you structure your paragraph, how you structure each sentence within the paragraph to get your ideas and your opinion and thoughts across most effectively. So that's what we're going to begin with today, and really talk about how we can make sure we have this level of coherence and cohesion, the paragraph structure that we need to write effectively and get a good score. First of all, let's just talk about the content of your paragraph. When you're sharing your opinion, each paragraph should include 3 things, and these 3 things are essential for giving your opinion or offering a solution to a problem. You want to give a clear statement. What is your opinion? What is your solution? And then you want to give a good reason for that opinion. And then you want to add in a specific example that will strengthen your thoughts and ideas and your opinion. And you'll notice when you look at any question in writing task 2, it always asks to include a relevant example from your own experience and your own life. So don't forget to include these 3 things in every paragraph when it comes to the content and what you'll include in your paragraphs. But as well as the content, we also want to talk about how we can structure the sentences in our paragraph. And I'm going to share with you 3 different types of sentences that if you use them effectively and you vary them throughout your paragraph, this will certainly raise your score when it comes to the writing section. So let's first of all start with a simple sentence. And this is the most basic building block of a paragraph. It's the simple sentence, and it has the most basic elements to make it a sentence. It has a subject and a verb and a completed thought. And this simple sentence is also known as an independent clause. And as we talk about the next 2 types of sentences, you will see that they are built on the basis of understanding, first of all, the simple sentence structures. And a simple sentence can be one of the clearest ways to get your opinion across and to share your the main point of what you want to say. So don't underestimate the power of a simple sentence. So here are just some examples of simple sentences. Joe waited for the train. Joe is the subject and waited is the verb. And we have this in simple past. The train was late. The train is the subject and was is the verb. Sometimes we'll have a compound subject. Mary and Samantha took the bus. And I looked for Mary and Samantha at the bus station. So these are just examples of simple sentences. And before we finish this lesson today, I will show you specific examples of a simple sentence according to an IELTS topic that we're going to look at. The next type of sentence is a compound sentence. And a compound sentence refers to a sentence that's made up of two independent clauses, or another way to think of it, just joining together two simple sentences. So you can see how the simple sentence is the basic building block. And then if we want to form a compound sentence, all we have to do is take these two simple sentences and join them together. And the tool that we use for joining these two sentences together is called a coordinating conjunction. So this is where we begin to add in some functional and useful vocabulary for the IELTS exam. And before we do this, let me just add a tip. When it comes to improving your vocabulary for the IELTS exam, quite often I see so many test takers that they're very tempted to try to learn new and fancy words, technical words, words that are special and may even impress the examiner. And I'm not going to recommend that you do that. In another lesson, you can see my tips for improving your vocabulary. But what I want to encourage you to do is to learn vocabulary that serves a function, that serves a purpose, and will really help you in a practical way improve your writing ability. And the type of vocabulary, the type of words that we use to join two simple sentences together into a compound sentence are called coordinating conjunctions. And here's an example of the coordinating conjunctions. And if you just remember the acronym FANBOYS, this will help you to remember the most useful coordinating conjunctions for writing a good paragraph. We can use the word for if we want to give a reason or purpose. If we just want to connect two ideas together, we can use and. If we want to connect two negative ideas, we can use nor. If we want to contrast or make an exception, we can use but. If we want to offer a choice or option, we can use the word or. We can use yet, again, for contrasts or exceptions. And if we want to mention about a result or a consequence, we can use the little word so. So I would encourage you, when it comes to building your vocabulary, to focus on functional words that can really make a big difference. These little words, these 7 little basic words can be so helpful and functional, and I would encourage you to focus your vocabulary improvement on learning this functional, useful language that will help you. So we have simple sentences. When we join two simple sentences together, we end up with a compound sentence. So here's some examples of these compound sentences in use. Joe waited for the train, but the train was late. I looked for Mary and Samantha at the bus station, but they arrived at the station before noon and left on the bus before I arrived. Mary and Samantha arrived at the bus station before noon and they left on the bus before I arrived. And Mary and Samantha left on the bus before I arrived, so I did not see them at the bus station. So again, I just encourage you to learn how to use these conjunctions and learn how to take two simple sentences and make them into a compound sentence. Now, the third type of sentence that I want to mention to you is when we take a simple sentence or an independent clause and we add some extra information to it by using a dependent clause. Now, a dependent clause is similar to an independent clause, but it can't stand by itself. It's not a complete sentence. It lacks one of the elements that would make it a complete sentence. So in order to be useful, it has to be joined to a complete sentence. So one of the simplest ways to make a complex sentence is to take a phrase or a dependent clause and add it to your simple sentence. And here's some examples of dependent clauses that can be added to a simple sentence. Okay, because Mary and Samantha arrived at the bus station before noon. Well, that gives us some important information, but it's not something that can stand alone. So if I say, I arrived at the bus station, I didn't see Mary and Samantha because Mary and Samantha arrived at the station before noon. Okay, so the idea is to just take a simple dependent clause and add it to a simple sentence. And you can also take a dependent clause and add it to a compound sentence. And by doing these things, what you're doing is you're varying the length and type of sentences in your paragraph. And by doing this, you're displaying a higher level of English and a higher level in your ability to communicate and write in English. And of course, the result will be a higher score in the writing section. And some of the words that we use to start these independent clauses, we use them at the beginning of the independent clause, are called subordinating conjunctions. And you can see there's quite a list here. And again, I want to encourage to choose the ones and learn the ones that are most functional for you. Now, just remember, in the writing section, in Writing Task 2, you're only required to write 4 or 5 paragraphs in the whole essay. So you're not going to be required to know all of these conjunctions. So what I encourage you to do is to choose the 4 or 5 that work best for you and that you can use most effectively, and learn how to use these to the best of your ability, and choose and prioritize the ones that you think that you can use to get you a higher score. Sometimes if we try to learn too many, we end up not using any of them effectively. So I really encourage you to choose the 5 or 6 that can work best for you and learn how to use them effectively. So now we have 3 types of sentences. We have a simple sentence, we have a compound sentence, and we have a complex sentence. And if we put these together, we can write an effective paragraph. So let's talk and let's get specific to an IELTS task here, and let's put it all together. Here's an example of an IELTS Writing Task 2 question. Nowadays, many people have access to computers, and a large number of children enjoy playing video games. What are the advantages and disadvantages of playing video games for children? And here's the thing that I mentioned earlier when it comes to the content of your paragraph. Give reasons for your answer and include any relevant examples from your own knowledge and experience. So remember the content. Each paragraph has to include your statement, a good reason, and a specific example. And if you have all those, if the content of your paragraph includes those three things and only those three things, you will get a good score in your writing. So let's just take a look at how we can form sentences from simple independent clauses and maybe join them together with a dependent clause. And as we do this, you can see how simple, with a little bit of practice, how simple it is to have these varied lengths of sentences and write effectively. So for example, if I want to say my main point for a topic in this writing task, I could say education is demanding for young people. Okay. But I can add something to that sentence to make it into a compound or a complex sentence. So let's add a dependent clause to education is demanding for young people, yet unlikely things can be of benefit. So what we're doing is we're opening up the possibility of something that comes in contrast to being so demanding. For example, video games. Video games are relaxing. Maybe I want to join that to another independent clause. And so if I say video games are relaxing, and if you look down a little further, I have say video games can have a positive impact. So here I have two positive things to say about video games. Why don't I just join them together using the simple conjunction and? Video games are relaxing and can have a positive impact. Okay. Maybe I want to give an example of how demanding education can be for young people. And I want to use a personal example from my own life and experience. So I could use my son Kyle. If you look down towards the bottom of the independent clauses, I could say something like independent education is demanding for young people. For example, my son Kyle struggled in school. Okay, so I'm leading into giving a little story, an example that will make my point even more powerful. I could say something like, if I want to add a dependent clause to video games can have a positive impact. Why? Because they include problem solving. Okay. Or if I want to say something else, I could say video games can have a positive impact because they're valuable for developing confidence. So you can just see, if you take a look at some of these examples, good sentences can be formed just by understanding how to join simple sentences together, independent clauses, or to join a dependent clause with an independent clause. And if you can practice and keep it simple and form these sentences using those functional terms, the fanboys and the subordinating conjunctions, you will write very effectively. And here's my final paragraph. And as far as content goes, you can see that it does include a statement, a reason, and an example. The vocabulary is not fancy, it's not technical. And I've varied the length of my sentences and the type of sentences. And I have a paragraph, a simple, straightforward, well structured, cohesive, and coherent paragraph that would definitely get me the score I need on the writing task too. Nowadays, education is becoming more and more demanding for young people. However, the most unlikely of activities can sometimes be of benefit. For example, playing video games can help because they are not only relaxing, but provide skills that are beneficial for improving in one's studies. Although my son Kyle struggled in school, he developed the confidence and abilities that helped him to pass a crane operator course successfully. And just a note, that is a true story about my son, and he has a great career because he played a lot of video games when he was a young boy. Well, I hope you found this interesting, and I want to encourage you to look at the other lessons that will help you improve your English for the IELTS exam, and I want to wish you all the best as you continue to prepare for test day.